Kind of story so unbelievable that if it weren't a true story, you probably wouldn't believe it. In the early 2000s, a charismatic criminal known as the Roofman, given that title because he would rob fast food joints by gaining entry from their roofs, escaped from prison and hid out for a very long time inside of a Toys R Us store. That is the premise of at least the beginning of the premise of the dramatic new comedy Roofman. Stars Channing Tatum. We're joined live by the film's incredible writer-director, Derek Cianfrance. Derek, one of my favorite movies of the year, man. Absolutely incredible.
Thank you so much.
You and I were talking about it last night. I'd love to know, because whenever I tell people about the story, they go, that couldn't happen. And I go, no, I mean, it did. It's a true story. And then they go, okay, well, then it's got to be a movie. When you first heard this story, how much of you thought there's no possible way this thing actually happened?
Yeah, I felt that way. And then I started talking to the real guy, Jeff Manchester, who's in a maximum security prison in Raleigh, North Carolina. And he started telling me his story. And I spent 400 hours talking to him. And over the course of those, maybe like 100 hours in, I thought to myself, is this guy just telling me a tall tale?
Sure.
Because this couldn't be true. So I got in touch with a lot of people from his life, his mother, his brother. I got in touch with the sergeant of the police task force that arrested him. I got in touch with the judge who sentenced him to 45 years. I got in touch with his girlfriend who he started dating from the local church, the pastor of that church, and a bunch of people that knew him. And they
played
all
here in the film by Kirsten Dunst. An amazing performance by Kirsten.
She's amazing. She's one of our great actors. But yeah, they all validated this story, and I realized that this actually happened. But then to take it one step further, I went down and shot the movie in Charlotte, North Carolina, where all the events took place, and surrounded myself with all those people. And when you see this movie, I have some great actors, Channing Tatum giving just such an amazing performance, and Kirsten and Peter Dinklage, but then we surround them with all of the real people from the story.
Unreal.
Making cameos.
Everyone's great. It's, you know, sometimes they do that and you go, okay, that's clearly had to be someone involved because they couldn't act their way out of a cardboard box. But everyone in this movie is fantastic. You told me something last night I thought was fascinating, that Jeff, the real guy who the movie is about, thought that the casting of Channing Tatum was perfect to play him. And wouldn't we all? Every guy thinks they should be played by Channing Tatum. But he in particular thought this was perfect.
Yeah, well, he said, because I got him Channing's number, he called Channing. He was like, you know, Channing and I have so much in common. You did such a good job casting this movie. We both played defensive end. We both have extremely high motors, and we're both incredibly attractive.
You know what? I love it. Even from behind bars, I love the confidence.
Exactly.
Not to get into the weeds or the details, but you told me something else. You know, I'm talking about how fascinating this story is. So fascinating, in fact, that there were some details in the real story that were so unbelievable that you thought, there's no way. I can't put that in the movie because people won't believe that it's true.
Yeah, that's true. There was one scene that we actually shot that happened in real life where Jeff was out trick-or-treating with his girlfriend's daughter, and her hands were cold because a lot of these Halloween costumes back in 2004, they didn't have pockets.
Sure. And he's a wanted criminal by this point. They're looking for him.
They're looking for him, and he's dressed as a giant Easter bunny on Halloween night, and he says, we just need to find you a pair of scissors. And the daughter says, why don't we go there? And she pointed to a police station. And so they walked into the police station and asked the officer behind the glass if they could have a pair of scissors. And yeah, he had a lot of moxie and guts.
Yeah, he was probably the most wanted person in that area at that time, and he just marched into a police station. It's an unreal story, but really quick before we go, you mentioned, like, right now it's tough for, you know, Jeff knows a lot about what's going on. He knows about the film, he knows about the casting.
Yeah.
But as of right now, not really a lot of opportunity for him to see it, not only just because he's behind bars, but they're making it difficult.
Yeah, he hasn't seen the film. He's very much looking forward to. He's seen a lot of the promotional material. He saw the poster, and he asked me, he was like, hey, where'd you get this idea to put Channing Tatum in his underwear with a pool floaty and a giant teddy bear around his neck? And I said, well, I built a toy store in North Carolina and let Channing loose in it. And as I was shooting a scene, he came around the corner and he looked like that.
As he does.
So I shot him, and Jeff says, you know, that makes me so happy because when you live in a toy store for 6 months, it has a way to connect you to your inner child. And I'm so happy Channing got connected with his.
I love that. And there are so many small details. We touched on this before we go. In addition to living in a Toys R Us, he also briefly lived in a Circuit City he hid out. And they found one solitary fingerprint of his. And they found the fingerprint on what?
Catch Me If You Can
DVD copy of Catch Me If You Can, which again, if you'd put that in the movie, I would have been like, there's no way. That's not a real thing.
Exactly.
Roofman, not just the best movie of the weekend. It is one of the best movies you're going to see this year. A career best performance by Channing Tatum, and an unbelievable story that if it weren't a true story, you had some great credits at the end, which you'll see. See it in theaters. It's playing now. Derek, my man, I appreciate you, brother.
Thank you, man. I really appreciate it.
We'll be right back.